Wow. Got up, made myself a coffee, if you can see that. Sorry, using background. And then my drive had to be updated on NVIDIA and broke my whole computer. So thanks, NVIDIA. I wish you'd just check with Windows before you make updates. Anyway, it's all fixed now. What a beginning to the day. I was going to record this an hour ago, and I've spent an hour as an old guy trying to work out what's wrong. And yeah, me lying on the floor, not the prettiest sight you've ever seen in your life, working on the back of a computer. So, I'm the old bull, Jonathan Bosanquet, CSO at Playable Games, co-founder with my family. And we are in a shitstorm. This is the dark night, the worst time of the voyage. Everybody is not happy. So, I mean, this is just every ship's log contains these sort of stories, that you're in the dark of the night, the storm is raging, things are breaking on the ship, crew's been lost overboard. We had a big bull sell 90 million coin this week. So it hurts when you hear that, because firstly, at these prices, even if they bought at the best of times in the end of 2022, they've not even made a profit, or hardly made a profit. So they've obviously sold because they have personal reasons. They need the money. And it's just one of those things where, you hear all of these stories of, you hear stories of, like, the guy in America who exhausted all of his money. He had a family fortune he'd inherited. He exhausted all of his money down to the last, in these days, I think it was the last $10,000 he had, which was enough, like in today's money, was like $1 million. And he sold this complete oil well rig that he'd set up, and he'd bought all these things to the oil, in an oil field. And he sold it for junk. He just literally, a junk man bought the actual property and all the oil rig stuff on it. And the junk man took out his son on the weekend to have a look at what he bought. And the son said, "Hey, Dad, can we turn on the oil rig?" And the dad laughed and said, "Yeah, I suppose we can turn on." And they'd been running it for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and it hit the largest oil reserve in Texas. So apparently true story. So just the luck, the luck, if you want to call it luck, persistence, you can put different titles on things. I tend to look at this sort of stuff as luck. The guy that exited and sold the oil rig, I'm sure he didn't do that lightly. I'm sure after it exhausted his family fortune digging for this damn oil, I am sure that he thought, this is it, I've got to make the right decision, I've got to make the correct decision, and he exits. And then not a few weeks later, the junk man hits the largest oil reserve in Texas's history. So another story like that, a diamond story out of South Africa, a guy, same sort of thing, I think it was a family fortune, a family farm. He'd been, again, mining for oil, I think, and he sold the property, and a priest bought the property. And when the priest was down by the river one day, he scratched a rock on the surface. He thought it was glass, and he licked it up, and it was he knew, because he'd seen them before, he was more educated. It was like a 2-inch diamond on the surface of the ground. So it wasn't an oil field, it was a diamond field. And he bought a property with a diamond mine on it, or turned into a diamond mine. So, like, these stories are rife. The trouble with these stories, as I mentioned in the book I'm writing called The Success Lie, the trouble with these stories is they're little tiny pieces of success amongst millions and millions of times of failure. And the lie that everyone can be successful, that's not true. Not everyone can be successful. Some people don't have the ability to apply themselves. Some people don't have the intellect to get through the problems that they have to get through. Some people don't have the tenacity to put up with the problems that come. And look at us today. Like we were talking in the Big Bulls Club, and just how hard this is. And I said, actually this might have been a general chat. Our whole family fortune for 4 of us is in this company. These are tough times. We're watching, I see someone put up the market cap of Playable Games today, and it's like CoinGecko, I think, says it's $5 million. I mean, it's just ridiculous that that's what the value of the company is, considering we spend $400,000 a month paying our staff. It's just one of those things that you've just got to live with. The stuff being reported through the metrics they're using to measure are not accurate. Alex Becker's video was a fantastic video this week on the sense of the sentiment of what's going around. And he says, all you people that are selling everything and getting out of the market right now, you are doing it at the absolute worst time. It feels like the best time, but you've got to apply logic over the top of what's going on. All right. We know that crypto is manipulated. We know that there's big players doing big things out there. And we also know that crypto overall follows a cycle. It has followed a 4-year cycle for 16 years now. And it's pretty accurate down to days, over thousands of days. So all these YouTubers coming out saying that this is the end, the bull run's finished. 1008 was Bitcoin's top. It's a respectable top, and we should just accept it and move on. What a load of horse shit! All those people don't even understand the cycle. All right, the bull run is 1100 days long, somewhere between 1050 and 1150 days long. It can go out to 1200 days long. So on average, it's 1100 days long. What day are we up to now? We're up to day 800. Not 1000 and we're close to 1050. No, we're up to 800. There is at least 250 days left. At least 250 days left. Most probably 300, possibly 350 days left. So a complete year from now before the bull run finally closes out and we move into the strong bear for a year. So for all these YouTubers who are just profiteering off fear or succumb to it, all right, and that's, from a ship's captain's point of view, that is the worst scenario. Your whole crew decides, Bob is right and the captain's wrong. Bob knows how to sail a ship and the captain has no fucking idea. We'll overthrow the captain, mutiny, and then away we go. So, yeah, obviously a captain's horror for that to happen. So what we know for sure, when you read ship's logs and stuff, is that there are many times where you think you've got your calculations right and the food's run out on the ship, you're down to your last bit of water, you literally need to find land sometime soon, and these few days while you're setting people up to the crow's nest every day to search, these few days are torturous, where it's just sea as far as the person can see. All right, it's just the ocean. And then at some point, someone cries, land, ho. And they've sighted land. All right, can you imagine the relief on that ship? Unless, of course, they're landing on the west coast of Australia, then they're fucked. The Dutch found Australia in the 1500s, and they land on the west coast, and that is desert to the ocean. So it's pretty hard to live out there. So the Dutch saw it and basically said, someone can keep this shit. And of course, had they just circumnavigated around the bottom and got to the south side or the east side of Australia, they would have found what the English found. So, and then England, that was probably their worst mistake. They sent the prisoners to Australia and they stayed in dreary, rainy England. Personally, I would have sent the rich to Australia and left the prisoners in England. Anyway, that's just a joke, really. Obviously, England's a beautiful place, and obviously they had very good reasons to maintain their empire there. But as Australians, we feel that we were very lucky. So the short end of the stick is that this is just a tenacity thing. This is just a hang-on thing. This is just the time you need to be patient. As some of the big bulls say, just pack up your charts and go fishing. Come back in a month or two. All right? M2 money supply, everyone's saying March is the turnaround. Everyone's saying this is a manipulated wipeout to just clear the charts. I don't know. I don't know enough about the market to actually understand the intricacies of what goes on behind the scenes. But I do know that when Jason Pizzino lays out the days of the bull run and the days of the bear runs, they are very close to 250 days down for a bear run and 1150 days up for a bull run. So, and when you look at that over the 16 years, it's almost, it's literally within days. Highs happen on the same day of the year. So there's stuff going on in the monetary cycle that we don't understand as people. There's banks have to refinance all their loans, and I think Satoshi made the decision to launch Bitcoin on the monetary cycle. So it coincides, the halving all coincides into the money cycle, and I think Satoshi did that purposely. So it actually has the momentum of the money cycle. And maybe so it can be tracked. Maybe so we can work out what's going on. So, is this the end? No, it's not the end. Where are we at Playable Games? Well, I think we're in a really good position. We're in a terrible storm, and that storm has nothing to do with us. And that's a really important thing to understand and to differentiate. All right? Just because you're in a massive storm, just because the shit is going down, it doesn't mean that you, like Playable Games, is in the wrong here. We are building, we're doing all the things right, we're spending a lot of money every month making sure these games get out. We've got 2 alphas coming out one within the next month and one within the next 6 weeks. So that's Dogs of War coming out within the next month, and so that should be the first week of April. That is the actual designated time, first week of April. The reason we say first week is that we're aiming for the first. I think we're actually aiming for the 3rd of April, but we allow ourselves a few days to tidy up because this is not a science. There's a lot of art going on here, and sometimes things are just buggy and don't work out as well. So basically speaking, we've got 2 things coming out. We've got the first one coming out, Dogs of War coming out in the first week of April, and then we've got War of Steel coming out into alpha on the 3rd week of April, so 2 weeks later. So some people are saying that's going to change our fortunes. I don't think that's got anything to do with our fortunes. I think our fortunes are tied into the market. And until the market is pumping, we're not going to see the onflow of that. That said, my goal has always been that by the time the bull run comes, Playable Games is in a very small group of companies. We're in a group of companies that has not one game out, not one game you can play. Now, Nexus is over a year old now, so Nexus is actually starting to look really good. If you haven't played Nexus in a while, you should jump in and have a play. All right, we've got a new lead dev starting on that shortly, and he's going to be working on optimization and getting the actual balance of the game really clean. Because by the end of this year, I'm hoping to have the money to put up $1 million prize money for Nexus. All right, so we're going to have a season. We're going to have like a 6-month season or a 9-month season, and that season will culminate with a championship where the top 5 teams will battle it out for $1 million prize money. So that is my goal for the end of this year. Now that all obviously depends on what actually happens with the market. If we don't have the money, I can't do it. So, but presuming we have the money, that will be what we're doing next. We'll be doing the same sort of thing with Ordinum, and yeah, that's going to bring us lots of eyes on. When you start putting up that sort of prize money, gamers around the world start saying, hey, you know, I can play that. That looks like a pretty good fun game. I'll learn that and I'll start going for that. And we're obviously going to put up some money each week for earnings as well for the top 200 or top 500 players. So that's going to be pretty cool. All right, so some guys asked me to talk about Dogs of War and what Dogs of War is and what we're doing with it, because a lot of people don't really understand my vision for this. And there's a couple of things we're doing with Dogs of War that are really different to normal games. The first thing we're doing is we're building out a survival. So the base game is this. It's a survival game. So a survival game is where you dropped into the world with almost nothing, and you have to work out how to survive. Right? There's no manual on how to do it. You literally get dropped in, and you're running around in a world, and it's called an open world. It means you can go anywhere. There's no path to follow. There's no you know, hey, do this, do that. There actually is a do this, do that, but it's built into the open world. You have to learn these things along the way. So the basic scenario is there is 4 islands in between Australia and New Zealand. I don't know if you know that there's a part of the Pacific Ocean is between Australia and New Zealand, and there's actually a landmass there. It's actually called in real life it's called Zealander, I think, and it's actually New Zealand is the very tip of this huge continent that runs alongside Australia. There's a large continent. It's about the mass of it is about 300 feet under the water. But there's actually places along the Pacific Ocean there where it comes up quite close. There's one place where it's within 50 feet, I think, of the surface, but you just can't see it. Boats have to be careful of it because big boats have to steer clear. Anyway, we're in the story, we're pretending that there's 4 islands that are there that the world has agreed through treaty to keep off all maps. And Australia, New Zealand and America have named these 4 islands Neutralis, so new for New Zealand, Tral out of the middle of Australia, and US for the United States. Neutralis, and it's a biological testing island. It's a set of islands that were used for biological testing, and they were working on all sorts of vaccines and blah, blah, blah. So when the zombie virus hit, the COVID 425 or whatever it was in the story, Neutralis was called up by the 3 governments and said, please work out a antivirus for this. And I think that'd be called a vaccine, not an antivirus, although antivirus might be better. So they started work on it, and what they found out was the dogs were immune to this actual virus that was killing everyone. And this virus is like a 90-something% kill rate. And those that don't die turn into zombies, typical zombie type stuff. So anyway, they work out that dogs are immune. So there was a scientist that was put in jail years ago for doing dog-human DNA trials. They go and break him out of prison. They bring him back to Neutralis, and he helps them develop a new breed of human called a doggo. And you can actually basically be put into a biometric chamber, and in a few weeks you come out as a doggo. And your DNA has been manipulated and changed. And yeah, So that's the base storyline. And the virus has spread all over the world. Pretty much the whole world population is dead. Those that aren't dead are zombies. And the only people that are alive now are doggos. And so the scientists have been releasing doggos out into the wild over the last couple of years or months or whatever it's been. We're not quite sure on the timelines there yet for the story. But there are doggos already out in the world and they're just trying to survive. And your job is to go out and work out what's going on. So you get dropped into the world and you have to survive. So that's the first part. You got to find food, you got to find clothing, you got to just survive. There are zombies walking around that are going to try and hurt you. And you have to get basically north. You've been told to go north, and they're saying north. There was a better camp up north, another scientific camp that had more advanced stuff. So your goal's to get north, and where we've got doggos right now is you're going to experience the bottom island, the world. It's a very Australian outback climate down on the bottom island. And it's got nice sort of like thinned out Australian bushland, and it's a quite thin island. It's 20 kilometres long. Takes a long time to walk from one end to the other. And there's some ATVs on there you can find. So you can actually jump on a quad bike and you can ride around on a quad bike. And the basic experience is you'll be able to hunt some guys with a bow. You'll have a bow and you'll be able to find bows and arrows. You'll have to find some food. You have to get some clothing. But this alpha is all about just showing you the base world, what we're working on. The actual game's going to take probably 5 years to bring to full fruition. But the idea of Playable Games is to get us to this point where we have 1 million users playing 30 different games or thereabouts. Some games aren't going to be successful, some games are. Let's say 10 different games out of our 30. And those 10 different games have one might have a couple of million players, one might have a couple 100,000, one might have 10,000. If they're profitable to keep going, we'll keep them going. Those million users using the bull token are going to give utility to the bull token, which makes it cyclical. So it just keeps rotating back through the economy. People pay us in bull to buy things that we make. We then put that bull back onto the market by selling it. So, and then people buy bull to get more things in the games, and away we go. So the company has a way of earning money. People have a way of buying things in the games, and they earn and own all their assets. Now, one of the things we're doing with Dogs of War, which is really cool, is we're going the exact opposite of what Bohemia did. Bohemia owns Daisy. That's D-A-Y-Z, for those of you who've never played that. I would suggest having a look. It's a great game. And it's what Dogs of War is actually built on. So, or when they built on, copied. We've copied that idea, and we've built out, we wanted to make a survival game and fix some of the problems with Daisy. Daisy's got a couple of big problems. And in my humble opinion, I have chosen to change those couple of problems and make the game more the style I like. When I say they're problems for me. So what Bohemia did was they shut down all the modders. So modders are people that come to the game and say, hey, I'd like to have helicopters in this game. And they mod the actual background programming and they put helicopters in. And they make it an add-on mod that you can add on to the game. And then you can now have helicopters in DayZ. All right. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to embrace modders. We want modders to come. We want modders to actually mod our base code and change the game however they see fit. And survival of the fittest. Let's let the game evolve. Let's let people come to the game and say, this is a fantastic open world. I want to do this with it. And then we're going to sell NFTs for around about $1,000, and you'll be able to buy a server, the NFT right, to run a Dogs of War server. And you'll set up that server. That'll all be automatic. You'll be able to, we'll be able to have that. We'll show you how to do that. And then you can sell tickets per month for Bull onto your server. So people can pay you, and we've got credit card facilities set up already. So you can just take a credit card payment. It'll just convert it to Bull, and then it gets put into our ecosystem. But that's already set up. We've done all that. Playable Games has already got that done. We have credit card facilities. We have our own marketplace. We have our own blockchain. We have our own coin. We have multiple centralized exchanges, multiple decentralized exchanges. We are not a new project just starting out. Hopefully, wow, this big idea promise will come into some $1 million company. We are a multi-million dollar company already, and we've built all this stuff out. So people just forget what's been done. We have so much stuff done, and yeah, it's very cool. I'm very proud of where we are. And as I said, hearing that we've got a $5 million market cap just makes me laugh. It is actually, well, it makes me cry inside and I laugh outside because that's the only logical reaction to such a stupid valuation of what this company is. If I was looking to buy a whole company, Playable Games would be, honestly, just a steal. Anyway, we have an idea coming for that, which I can't talk about right now because we're just checking out the legalities of it. But boy, oh boy, you ain't seen nothing yet about what we got coming. It's just amazing. So I have an idea that will make us the first, I think, the first in the world. And it's amazing. Anyway, I think it's amazing. So you're going to be able to buy a server. You're going to be able to set up, we're building Dogs of War to be modular. So all the things like helicopters, like boats, like cars, like all the guns, all the fighting system, the weather, the things that are actually in the game, they're all modular. They can be turned on and off and adjusted. So you, as the server owner, if you want to do this, you want to run a server. So the reason running a server is cool is I've got a friend who runs a server. He actually works for us. And he runs a DayZ server, and he's made about $3,000 to $5,000 a month for the last several years running his own DayZ server. So he sells a monthly ticket. People pay him $20 a month to join his server, and he set up the server the way he wants to. And that's how we met. I had my own server, and I was selling tickets on my server. So people would just pay per month to join. And so whereas DayZ tries to shut all these modders down and stop them, they don't really allow the modders to make money. We want the modders to make money. We're going to have a special marketplace part of our marketplace where server owners can buy mods for their servers. And so the modders can actually get paid for making mods for our servers. So one guy might say, I don't want any nighttime on my server. So he will turn the nighttime off and it'll just be daytime all the time. Another guy might say, I want long nights and short days, or really gloomy dark days and long nights. So that means that all the battle's going to be with infrared night vision goggles, and the guys that don't have night vision goggles are at a big disadvantage. Guys that do are going to be at an advantage. And so some guys are going to say they want helicopters. Some guys are going to want to have the drug trade. So we have a drug trade being built where that's how you make money. There's a combat drug that you can take that actually gives you a buff and makes you stronger as a doggo. And you got to grow that drug, and you got to harvest it, and you got to package it, and you got to then go to an oil rig offshore to sell it to a very special drug lord that's out there. And he's an old army general, and he buys and sells this drug, and he controls the whole drug trade. And that's how you make money. But that oil rig is what we call a choke point in a game loop. So a game loop is something that is enjoyable in the game. And that oil rig is the only place you can buy drug making facilities and sell the drug. So you have to go there if you want to get into the drug trade. So of course it's a PvP zone, and on the server I used to be on, holy shit, you had to go there daily to sell your drugs because your drugs are on an 8-hour cycle. They take 8 hours to grow. So we used to do one trip as a guild. And there's going to be guilds. There's going to be There's voice in the game. You'll be able to speak to your guild members. This won't be in alpha, by the way. This is coming. But this will be in beta by the end of the year, most probably. So you'll be able to be in your guild. You'll all be able to talk to each other. You'll be able to see each other on the map. So it's like it's a fantastic game. This whole, as I said, we're copying it, and that's the, I think, in my opinion, again, this is the advantage of Playable Games. People say, what's your base business model? My base business model is really simple. We copied Gala Games. So here's one of my principles of life. The best idea is a stolen one because you know it works. All right, I'll repeat that. The best idea is a stolen one because you know it works. All right, I am creative, but I'm actually pretty good at stealing stuff. I'm not, sorry, I probably should, boy, that could be taken out of context. Stealing other people's ideas and running with the idea and seeing if I can seeing if I can evolve that idea, make it better. And I'm also very good at, when someone tells me something is impossible, I just hear hasn't been worked out yet. So someone says, that's impossible, all right? And I love the Steve Jobs mentality, the Elon Musk mentality. You know, people say, you just, land a rocket back in these two pincer things? That's impossible, you can't do it. It's just not actually possible. And Elon goes, well, yeah, it's not today, but it could be. We just got to work out how to do it. And, I hear Einstein say faster than light travel, not possible. And my brain just goes, yeah, we haven't worked out how to do it yet. There'll be a way to do it. It just hasn't been worked out. Yes, the physics might be in the way. It might be really hard to do. You might have to break outside the physics. You might have to, bend space and surf the space wave, whatever the actual solution is. Just like everything before it, it was impossible until it was done. So they're the two things that I run in counterbalance. One is I steal ideas that I think are really good and evolve them. And I don't get blocked by things that seem impossible. I keep asking, well, if it was possible, what would that look like? How do we do that? Don't tell me it can't be done. Tell me how it could be done. Let's work on that. All right? And that's really frustrating to work with, by the way. Anyone who's not like that fucking hates me. All right? I've got people in my employ who just dread me getting on a call with them because that will cause them stress. I understand that, and I apologize for it all the time. It is, I can totally understand why it's annoying. But, so where Playable Games is right now is we are just finding games that we already know have a massive following. Daisy has 15 to 30,000 players a night, and it's a 15-year-old game. All right, so that's a really good game. There's games like Rust, which is a copy of Daisy. All right, there's games like all those survival games are all based on the Daisy type genre. So, right. So we just copy the game, and my goal is to make a version of it which is somewhat as good, sometimes better, sometimes not quite as good, but you own your own assets and you get a chance to earn in it. Now, for my money and my time, if I'm going to be running around playing a game for thousands of hours a year, and that's the thing to remember, guys, gamers exchange thousands of hours a year for their time. Would I rather spend that time and have a chance of getting something really rare that's valuable and could literally sell for, tens of thousands of dollars? Would I rather spend my time and get a little bit of bull coin each day and be able to save that up, and every 4 years at the peak of the cycle, drop my bull coin into the retail and cash out? Whew, I tell you what I'd rather do. That's exactly what I'd rather do. So to me, it makes total sense. Copy games that have large followings, make a version of it. That's fucking hard, by the way. I didn't realize at the beginning of this, 4 years or 3 years ago, I didn't realize how hard making games was. I have had a crash course in how hard it is making games. we have very expert people on our team now who are just for hiring people. So the whole industry is filled with pretenders, people who think they know how to make a game and they actually don't know how to make a game. So that's cost us some money, and that learning has come out the other end with some very educated people that are now helping us get the right results each time. So that's a big plus. So again, any brand new company just popping up their head, like an NFT company or something, saying, "Hey, we're going to make a game," you can just laugh that out of the fucking, like, the chances of that being successful is almost zero. All right. The fact that we've been making multiple games has been our savior. All right, because we've been held up on one, we can release part of the other. So it's given us stuff to talk to the community about and to move forward. So yeah, it's been a crash course. So that's the base idea for Playable, is that we're copying other games, we're making a version of it, and you can earn in it and keep your assets. So when this bullshit gets out of the way, and Alex Becker said in his video this week, which I loved his first minute rant, where he's rolling around the floor waving his gun around, saying it's not fair, the market's falling apart, I'm going to sell everything. That is the wrong, as he was saying, that is the wrong attitude for crypto. This is crypto. If you didn't think you were joining the roller coaster from hell, you don't understand crypto. This is the roller coaster from hell. This is the worst ride you're ever going to experience. But when you get off, you might look back and go, holy shit, that was actually really fun. I'm going to do it again. All right. So there's a whole bunch of rules. Keep your arms inside the fucking carriage. All right. Do not stand up. There's a bunch of rules you got to learn to be on this roller coaster. People die on this roller coaster. People do get wiped out. But what he said is so true. If you didn't think it was that, you haven't done your research. This is a crazy ride from hell. And it's going to be scary and people are going to get wiped out. It's basically gambling. All right. We are basically degenerate gamblers. And we are backing some horse that we think looks pretty and might finish the race. All right. That's basically the majority of people in crypto are here for one reason and one reason only. They are working in a very, very hard job that they exchanged 40 hours plus a week for, and they get a little bit of money for it at the end. And they are trying to get some money into something that might give them a leverage, might give them a 10x or a 20x or a 100x. If you're lucky, you find a project that gives you 1,000x. All right? And in case you haven't done the maths, even if you had $100,000 in the market and you got a 10x, that's only $1 million. In today's money, guys, you can't retire on $1 million. You need $5 or $6 million to retire. All right, you've got to have 2 or 3 million of that invested at 10% per annum just to get an income. All right, so it's going to give you some sort of lifestyle. That's not what I wanted to do. Right, that's me ranting. Gosh, I'm having a bit of a rant today. So, finishing off, am I scared about the market? Yes, it's fearful to watch. I won't deny that. Am I like a captain on the ship, been in these storms before? Yes. I'm standing, let me turn off my screen thingo. Let me just go, where are we? Apply visual effects. Turn that off. Here's my ship behind me. This is my office. But here's my old bull number plate. Woo! But yeah, there's my ship behind me. The reason I use a screen protector is, a background is, in the UAE, our lights are on whatever it is, hertz. We've got LED lights all through the office. And the LED lights cause this wavy effect. And I've tried to adjust my screen resolution so it doesn't do it, and it's not working properly. Jet's, of course, young bull, his works properly. Mine doesn't work properly. But yeah, that's my ship behind my desk to remind me that we're on a voyage, and this is a voyage, and you can't just get off. Actually, I don't know if I've ever told you that story. Apply visual effects. Let's go back to that one. I was I learned to be a pilot. My dad was a pilot. My dad flew DC-10s for several years. He flew Airbuses, and he died when I was 30 something, 33, 32. But he worked for Continental in America. And anyway, I was learning to be a pilot. I was flying out of Jandakot in Perth, which is a little airport at the bottom of Perth in Australia. And I was on my second solo flight. And I took off. And while I was up doing my flight, the wind comes up. So in Perth, there's a wind that comes in most afternoons called the Fremantle Doctor. And it's about a 20 knot wind. And the little plane I was flying, a Cessna 152, that can only handle about 30 knots before it gets really dangerous. It's hard to land. So if the wind's going this way and you're trying to land this way, the plane has to actually turn nose on into the wind a bit. So it's basically flying sideways. It's a crab. So it's flying sort of into the wind and sort of forward. So when you're going to land, you can't land like that. So you have to yaw. They call it yawing the plane. So you turn your rudder and it straightens the plane up just before you land. So as you're coming down into the wind, and then you turn and land on the runway. Second solo flight, I just totally forgot that the rudder of the plane that steers the plane in the air is connected to the front wheel of the plane that steers the plane on the ground. So when I applied yaw to turn across that wind, my front wheel was turned. So just before you hit the ground, you're supposed to straighten up. So your front wheel's pointing straight ahead. I didn't straighten up. So when I landed, the plane, so you land, a Cessna 152, I remember correctly, lands at about 60 knots. Actually, takeoff speed might be 60, 65. So somewhere around there, it's around 50 knots, which is around 80 kilometers an hour. And so I landed and I just shot to the left on the runway. Now, that wouldn't have been too bad of a problem. I would have run off the runway into the grass. The trouble was that Perth is sunny for 9 months a year and it has a rainy, like a wet season for a couple of months, and Jandakot had been drenched for about a week. And I'd actually seen a plane cartwheel in the grass earlier that week. So I knew the grass was really sodden, and if my front wheel went into the grass in between the two runways, I would have possibly flipped the plane, which is the worst accident you can have. You don't want to cartwheel a plane, especially a small little piece of shit like a Cessna 152. Actually, any plane. Don't cartwheel planes. It's bad. I'm telling you. Delta did a good job though, just flipping it over. That was good. Flipping a plane over is obviously fine. Everyone lives. But cartwheeling, not good. Anyway, so I'm heading towards the grass. I'm scared to just swing the plane back onto the runway because I'm going to have to make a sharp turn and that could flip the plane over. So I instantly thought, what can I do? I can't hit the grass. I can't turn back. So I checked my airspeed. I was fairly close to having enough airspeed to take off again. So I gave it full throttle and just pulled back and took off. And that worked. The trouble was I was going across the second runway. The plane that was coming in on that runway had to abort its landing. I'm flying straight towards the control tower. I veer away from the control tower and take off. And on this upwind leg, you have a set of upwind checks that you do. And I did those checks about 15 times just to keep my brain occupied. And then you turn onto a crosswind leg and then you basically go into a square and come back around for another landing. And on the crosswind leg, I had a really interesting understanding of flying planes. And that was this. Jono, you cannot fucking stop this plane and get out. You have to land it. And I was talking to myself, just being very disciplined and strong with myself. So part of me is freaking out. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? I'm going to die here. And the other part was just calmly assessing the situation and saying, unlike a car, you can just slam on your brake and pull over to the side of the road and then just get out, and you can sit on the nature strip and go, what the fuck happened? A plane, you can't do that. You have to keep flying. So I went round, came in for another approach, totally fucked that up. I came in, didn't get my angle right, ended up too high. I did a flyby along the runway at 50 feet. And then the tower squawking at me, oh, you can't do flybys in this airport, and blah, blah. And I nearly died, leave me alone. You know, and then the tower was like, are you all right? And they'd missed the whole, I don't know what he was doing while I was flying towards him and running across another runway, but he missed that whole part, but he certainly saw me on the flyby. And on the second time round, I actually was able to land the plane. But it is, I think what I was saying, I've lost my whole train of thought there, but I think what I was saying was, in crisis, the only way to survive is to find that calmness, right? When the captain's on the deck of the ship and the fucking world is against you, the ship is pitching, the sails are ripping, crew members have fallen overboard, it's not a pretty sight. This is not what you want. This is not what you signed up for. But here we are, we're in it, it's happening. You only have two choices. One, panic and throw all the shit away and just go, fuck, this is unfair. Or you just say, hey, here we are. Let's move forward. Let's do the best we can with what we have and let's come out the other side. And guys, that's my challenge to you. Let's do the best we can with what we have and let's get out the other side of this storm. This storm will pass, right? There's only two things that can happen from here, all right? We're going to keep going down lower, and at some point, we're either going to move into a bear market, and Playable Games will have to go into some form of hibernation and then reserve the money we have left. And, you know, that would be the worst case scenario. Will we survive? Absolutely we'll survive. We have enough money to survive and get to the next bull run, all right? Is that likely? I don't think so. I think that's actually almost impossible. We're at 800 days in the bull run, not 1,100 days. If it was 1,100 days and we hadn't had a bull run, yes, that's what I'd be thinking. Shit, we're going to have to work out how we're going to get this ship to get more out of our food, more out of our water. All right? We're not there yet. We're nowhere near there. We're 200 days away from that problem. All right? The other option is that this was just a flush out. The market is going to turn, and early March we're going to see M2 money supply come in and the market takes off. And we get our first big run up into the middle of April, end of April. And then we're going to get another correction, guys. There'll be another correction mid-year, a big one. And it'll look, everyone will scream. That's, Bitcoin was 130, 150,000, whatever it got to. And everyone will scream, that's the end of the market. And we're going to go through all this again. It's all going to happen again mid-year. But the end of the year is our target. We've got to get to the end of the year, guys. October, November, December. That 3 months is the bull run. That is the 2025 bull run. So look back at 2021, guys. Look back at October, November, December, January 2021. So rolling in 2022. We started in February, remember. We started in the last month of the bull run. All right? So look back at those 4 months and tell me what you see. Because to me, that's what I'm living for. That is what the end goal is. Anyway, this has been a long one. I've been ranting, telling stories, talking about stuff. I'm going to do a detailed breakdown of Dogs of War. Shows screenshots and slideshows and all sorts of stuff. It's going to take me a while to do. But I'm going to put that together in the next week or two, and then we'll get that out so everyone can see what Dogs of War is going to be. And might interview a couple of the main team members. We've got a brand new producer on heading that team up. Danny, she's fantastic. I used to work for Ubisoft. And she's managing Dogs of War now like overseeing all the devs. We've got 9 devs working on that game at the moment. So we believe Dogs War is going to be the game that's going to set us apart on the crypto world as a real gaming company. And obviously Nexus is going to be that as well. And obviously Ordinum is doing really well as well. So once we start advertising these games properly in the bull run, you'll see the player base grow really quickly. So hang tough. This is hard times. But this is where men are made. Sorry, ladies that are present in our community. I love you guys dearly, but you are very, very few. There's only 3 or 4 ladies in the whole company. The majority of us are young men and some old men. But hang tough. My favourite line that I love typing in League of Legends when people start saying, let's fucking FF. FF means quit. In League of Legends, you type /FF and it brings up the surrender tab, and you can surrender to the other team because there's no way you win. And I type every single fucking day because people try to surrender games at 10 minutes. I type reach down and see if you've got any balls. And if you do, give them a bit of a rub because it's time to fucking man up here. All right? This is time to fight. This is not time to flee and start crying in the corner. That's what children do. All right? As men, it's time to stand up and be a man. Let's be a bit of men in this community. Let's reach down, touch your balls, and fucking realise this is what we're here for. These roller coasters from hell are what drops out the other side with, wow, what a fucking ride. With that, I'll sign out. Cheers.